The earth trembled under the weight of forgotten legends. Long before cities rose and fell, before men carved empires into the crust of the world, there were forces, primal, cosmic, unrelenting. Two of these forces had survived every age, every apocalypse, every rewriting of fate's pages. One was born from divine hatred, an unstoppable avatar of mystical power. The other was forged from pain, rage, and raw evolution, a creature whose strength had no ceiling, whose fury had no end. And now, after countless battles scattered across realities, they were on a collision course not orchestrated by chance or vengeance, but by necessity, by a truth that demanded resolution. This was not merely a fight, it was the war of ideologies. Purpose versus passion, constancy versus change, will versus emotion. Juggernaut and Hulk were not just combatants. They were philosophies made flesh. The conflict found its genesis not in violence, but in conversation, an argument between gods, scientists, and sorcerers that unfolded in the ruins of a collapsed universe. The Beyonder had torn a rift between planes, and through it, the echoes of all battles ever fought whispered their unresolved tensions. Watu, the Watcher, ever an observer, saw the strands of fate twist toward inevitability. And so, in the charred remnants of what once was Earth 829, he summoned both titans, one cloaked in the shadow of Cyttorak's will, the other glowing with Gamma-born fury. Hulk arrived first, not with rage, but with awareness. This was not the same beast who had once smashed indiscriminately. This was the immortal Hulk, the devil Hulk merged with intellect, wrath, and a brutal sense of justice. He stood beneath a shattered sky, breathing in the scent of ozone and ash, his mind swimming with ancient doubts. Strength was his answer to pain, but was it strength alone that would win this war? Juggernaut came with no hesitation. His massive form crashed into the battlefield like a meteor, the soil erupting around him. He carried the weight of 1,000 battles on his shoulders, every inch of him burning with the crimson energy of Cyttorak. Unlike the Hulk, Juggernaut had no doubts. He was the will of his god made manifest, unstoppable, unyielding, eternal. Battlefield itself was a manifestation of philosophical symbolism. Twisted buildings stood frozen in states of ruin and rebirth. One side bloomed with green, vines reclaiming steel, representing the Hulk's power of evolution, destruction, and renewal. The other side was petrified in blood-red stone, fractured but immovable, bearing the sigils of Cyttorak, a monument to Juggernaut's permanence, his divine burden of consistency. Before the first blow, they stood face to face, not as monsters, not as weapons, but as questions that demanded answers. "You've always run forward," Hulk said, voice deep, cold, resonating with the weight of millennia. "But do you even know what you're running toward?" Juggernaut's eyes narrowed beneath his helmet. "I don't run toward anything, Banner. I move. I exist. I am the consequence of inevitability. I don't need direction. I am direction." "Then you're just a prisoner of your god's script," Hulk replied. "A puppet pretending to be free because the chain is long enough not to feel. You think your power means purpose, but you've never broken. You've never bled enough to question what you are." Cain. Marco flexed his fingers, the earth cracking beneath his gauntlets. "And you think pain makes you better. You think rage is truth. You're a walking temper tantrum with no leash. You think that just because you've suffered, you're enlightened. All I see is a monster too arrogant to realize he's just a broken man with muscles." The words struck, but Hulk did not flinch. "I am broken, but that's why I can grow. Every fracture lets in light. Every defeat reshapes me. I evolve. You stagnate. My strength has no ceiling because I change. Yours has no meaning because it's gifted." Juggernaut sneered. You think Cyttorak gave me this? I earned it. Every step I take is mine. You lose control and call it freedom. You think you're the storm, but you're just wind flailing in every direction, hoping something sticks. You're wrong, Hulk said, walking forward step by slow step. I'm not the storm, I'm the mirror. I reflect back everything the world tries to bury. Pain, injustice, fear, and the truth is the world needs rage to heal. It needs evolution to survive. You think you're unstoppable? Fine. But I don't need to stop you to win. I just need to outlast you, outgrow you, and I always do. Juggernaut laughed, a sound like grinding metal. We'll see how long your enlightenment lasts when I bury you under miles of stone. No, Hulk said, his body beginning to shift, his skin glowing with a green flame. You'll see that nothing you hit me with changes what I am, but every time I get up, it changes you. It was not bravado. It was prophecy. In that moment, even the cosmic winds paused. This was more than a physical clash. This was entropy against growth, eternal inertia against ever-climbing resistance. Juggernaut was a monument, unmoving, impenetrable, an iron wall built by belief. But Hulk was the hammer of time itself. No matter how often he was crushed, he returned stronger, meaner, and more self-aware. This battle would not end with one of them unconscious. It would end with one of them irrevocably changed, and the one who could not change would fall. Somewhere far above them, the Watcher turned his gaze away. Even he could not bear witness to what would come next. And deep beneath the fractured soil of this forgotten place, the ground began to quake. Not from footsteps, but from the rumbling power of philosophy taking form. Not just fists, not just fury, but a war of meanings, a trial of identity. Only one would emerge still standing. Only one would be worthy of their pain. The wind died as if the world itself held its breath. The two titans stood still, muscles coiled, minds locked in a psychological crucible far deeper than brute violence. Time had lost its meaning here. There was only inevitability, and the space between two philosophies about to collide. Hulk's eyes glowed with a dark emerald radiance, a product of infinite trauma tempered by terrifying clarity. This was not a mindless beast. This was the immortal Hulk, every fragment of Bruce Banner and his monstrous identities integrated into a singular force that had seen death, resurrection, and revelation. Juggernaut, by contrast, remained the embodiment of unbending will. His armor glistened with crimson power, forged from the favor of Cyttorak himself, and his stance was that of a god who knew he could not fall. He had never yielded, never been slowed by pain, never questioned his path. But what he faced now was not simply rage, it was evolution. The first blow was seismic. Juggernaut thundered forward like a collapsing mountain, fists clenched, the air warping around his form. The land beneath him was peeled back like fabric, his momentum splitting the very crust of the battlefield. Hulk did not sidestep. He braced, snarling not in fear, but defiance. Juggernaut's fist met Hulk's open palm, an act of raw, audacious resistance, and the shockwave cracked the sky. The ground exploded. Lava burst from the fault lines, and the very planet screamed beneath their duel. But Hulk held. His feet sank deep into the rock, bones straining against the unyielding mass of Juggernaut's unstoppable force. For the first time in countless battles, Juggernaut was not moving forward. He was held, not by a wall, but by an idea that refused to break. Then Hulk pushed back. The world tilted. Juggernaut was shoved a full step, and it wasn't the physical movement that rattled him, it was the symbolic breach. No one moved Juggernaut. He moved through them, but now he was being resisted, not by force alone, but by adaptation. Hulk's muscles surged, not just growing, but reshaping in real time to match the pressure. Every cell in his body burned with gamma-fueled evolution. He wasn't fighting to overpower Juggernaut. He was letting Juggernaut test him so he could outgrow him. Juggernaut roared in fury and brought his fists down like twin meteors. Hulk met them head-on, a green explosion erupting from the impact as the sheer force disintegrated the landscape around them. The sky blackened with ash, oceans boiled at the edge of their shockwaves, but Hulk refused to fall. "You hit like the past," Hulk growled, muscles twitching, eyes burning. "But I am the future, and the future never stops adapting." Juggernaut slammed forward, grabbing Hulk by the throat, lifting him like a rag doll, and slamming him into a mountain. The rock shattered under Hulk's weight, burying him in rubble. But before Juggernaut could turn, Hulk erupted from the debris, eyes wild, jaw clenched. He twisted mid-air and delivered a kick that sent Juggernaut sliding back, not flying, not defeated, but moved again, another crack in the wall. "You fight to prove you're unstoppable," Hulk said, breathing heavily. "But you've never had to change. You've never had to suffer enough to become." Juggernaut bellowed, his voice echoing across dimensions. "I don't need to become anything. I am. What I am is enough to level cities and crush gods." "And that's your limit," Hulk spat. "You're enough. I'm never enough. That's why I keep growing. That's why I'll win." The battle escalated into a hurricane of violence. They collided again and again, Juggernaut's strikes creating craters miles wide, Hulk's counters erupting with gamma-powered tremors that sent mountains crumbling. Each clash was a statement, each blow a question. They were carving their philosophies into the bones of a dying world. Juggernaut hurled a massive boulder, and Hulk shattered it with a roar that cracked the heavens. He leapt forward, striking Juggernaut's helm with a blow that echoed through every plane of reality. The mystical armor cracked, not shattered but weakened. Hulk seized on it instantly, raining down a barrage of punches so fast they blurred into one continuous shockwave. Each impact wasn't just physical, it was metaphysical. Hulk was battering the certainty of Juggernaut's identity. "You don't change because you're afraid," Hulk snarled between punches, afraid that if you do, you'll realize your power isn't yours. It was never earned. It was given. Juggernaut roared in rage and desperation, exploding with Cyttorak's fury, knocking Hulk halfway across the ruined battlefield. He advanced, every step reshaping the terrain, bellowing, "I am chosen! I was deemed worthy of this power. You're just an accident." Hulk stood up slowly. Blood ran down his mouth, but he grinned, a terrible, knowing grin. "Then why do I keep surviving everything they throw at me? Why do I keep coming back stronger?" He cracked his neck and his form began to shift, growing larger, darker, more terrifying. The immortal Hulk was becoming something else, a culmination of rage, intellect, resilience, and cosmic awareness. The green door pulsed behind his eyes. He was now beyond anger. He was an answer. Juggernaut charged, unleashing every ounce of Cyttorak's essence. But Hulk didn't dodge this time. He welcomed the blow, and when it landed, he absorbed it. His body quaked, bones cracked, but he did not fall. He absorbed the kinetic energy, his muscles mutating, adapting, his skin thickening. Juggernaut reeled back, stunned. Hulk advanced, slow and certain. He grabbed Juggernaut by the collar of his armor and pulled him forward until their foreheads touched. "You fight for a god who gave you strength," Hulk whispered. "I am the god of mine, my pain, my fury, my evolution. No one gave this to me. I earned it, every damn step." And with that, he lifted Juggernaut, an impossible feat, and drove him into the molten earth with a scream that split the stars. The impact rippled through reality. The armor of Cyttorak cracked, truly cracked, and Juggernaut did not rise immediately. The Watcher reappeared, stunned. For the first time in eons, Juggernaut had been brought low, not by magic or banishment or trickery, but by raw evolutionary force that refused to stop growing. Hulk stood over his opponent, chest heaving, arms bruised but unbowed. Juggernaut stirred, groaning, not unconscious but dazed. His power remained, but something fundamental had been shaken. Not just in his body, in his belief. The idea of being unstoppable had been wounded. "You didn't beat me," Juggernaut muttered. "No," Hulk replied. "You beat yourself. You stopped believing that you couldn't be stopped. That's the real victory." And in that moment, the battle ended. Not with death, but with truth. Hulk didn't need to kill Juggernaut. He had done the impossible. He had shattered the myth. He had exposed that even the immovable could doubt. That was the real defeat. As Juggernaut lay in the fractured ground, the green door behind Hulk flickered shut and the world exhaled. The future had won, not because it was stronger, but because it refused to stop changing. And in the silence that followed, the Hulk turned his back and walked away, not victorious in ego, but confirmed in purpose. He had not just survived, he had transcended.